Melita Gabrič is the ambassador of the European Union to Canada. She's in Ottawa. Hi, Ambassador. Good to have you back on our program.
Thank you for inviting me.
Is it your expectation that something concrete, for example, in the way of new sanctions, will come out of the meeting of EU and NATO member countries, the world leaders from those meetings?
First of all, I would like to say that, in a wake of Russia's unprovoked and unjustified military aggression against Ukraine, the EU and its partner countries, including Canada, already put in place very severe sanctions against Russia. The challenge now is also to make sure that these sanctions are fully implemented, that there are no backdoors to undermining these sanctions. But I can actually confirm that the EU leaders will consider again tomorrow and the day after tomorrow what else can be done in terms of sanctions. And while governments debate their next steps, there is actually the fifth package of sanctions being prepared that could be, if need be, if the decision is such, be approved at a short notice.
Okay, understood. And let me ask you a little bit, if you don't mind, about that, because you're right in pointing out how many sanctions have already been applied and how unified the West really has been in their application. Is there a lot more, when you talk about a fifth package, for example, is there a lot further that the EU can go?
Well, the aim of the sanctions is to weaken the Kremlin's ability to finance this unjust war, this unprovoked war. We cannot emphasize enough that this is unjust and unprovoked war, and also to create conditions conducive to negotiations and to finding a peaceful resolutions. And I would say that consequences of our actions, the actions by the EU, the US, Canada, and other allied and partner countries are real for Russia. So the EU is ready also to mobilize its diplomatic resources to find a negotiated solution. But as I said, there is consideration about what else can be done in terms of sanctions.
And is it your understanding, or do you have any knowledge if, for example, like in the past, Canada will also be levying sanctions in concert, sort of in and around the same time to amplify their effect?
Yes, indeed. My understanding is that Canada will continue to be cooperating very closely with the EU. We have very close relations. Our principals have close relations, and we certainly expect Canada to continue to be being such a reliable partner and friend.
And when we are talking about what might help Ukraine in its endeavors, certainly, and we expect to hear from President Zelensky on this as well, there have been asks when it comes to the military. My understanding, I know here in Canada, for example, we have supplied lethal aid, but the reserves through which we can do that, the ability to do that, is limited now. The minister told us, the defense minister said that our supply has been exhausted. I think it's also the case in Germany. What other avenues do you think there are when it comes to helping Ukraine's military from the EU's perspective?
Well, from the EU perspective, one thing that I would point out is that we put in place these unprecedented actions to support Ukraine. And for the first time in the EU history, we are actually providing weapons to a country at war. We have been sending lethal equipment to the Ukrainian armed forces. Actually, it's our member states that are doing that. And the funding comes through the European Peace Facility. So I understand that talks are underway to continue to fund the deliveries of weapons to Ukraine through this mechanism.
And what about the possibility of lending Ukraine, for example, fighter jets so it can protect its own skies? And I ask the question because you know that so far countries in Europe, Canada, the United States have been unwilling to designate a no-fly zone because of how escalatory that move would be. Ukraine has asked for other ways to do that. What is the position of the EU when it comes to any of its member states loaning, for example, air equipment for that?
So you are right in pointing out that imposing no-fly zone would escalate the conflict. So this is something that needs to be considered very seriously, and that is also the danger of conflict escalation is something that is being looked at very carefully when the decisions are made about what type of weapons are being sent to Ukraine.
And just finally, Ambassador, before I let you go then, I did want to get your perspective on the refugee crisis that has emerged out of this. The sheer number of Ukrainians who have had to flee their homes and cross into other European countries. Can you tell us from your vantage point how sustainable that is?
Yes, so in face of this humanitarian tragedy, really, in response to the biggest refugee crisis in Europe since the Second World War, the EU is providing protection for anyone fleeing the war in Ukraine. And we reacted swiftly by granting secure status to anybody escaping the horrors of war in Ukraine. So anybody can get a residence permit, access to schools, medical care, work, social benefits, and so forth. So this is very important. But you're right. There are 3.5 million Ukrainian refugees on the EU soil, and this, of course, is a big causes big pressure. Especially on the neighboring member states. But the EU is reacting in solidarity here, and actually just today announced to release 3.4 billion euros in recovery funds to help these countries with investments, to help them fund investments in housing, education, health, employment, childcare. And of course, now as the conflict continues, more people will arrive from Ukraine. So we need others outside the EU to offer more help. And certainly we are looking forward to working, and the talks are, of course, already underway with Canada to cooperate closely in this area to welcome Ukrainian refugees expeditiously.
Okay, thank you so much. Ambassador Melita Gabrič is the ambassador of the EU to Canada. Hi, I'm Vashi Capellos, host of Power in Politics. See more of our show by subscribing to the CBC News channel or click the link for another video.